ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وآله إنك حميد مجيد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد عباد الله. All praise due to Allah and His praise and blessings and peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all the prophets and messengers and their followers. My dear brothers and sisters, I bear witness that Allah is the only one worthy of worship and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam His last and final messenger. Human being by nature is a social creature. We all live in society. We all live together in family and community, interacting with each other. And one of the most important element or tool that we use to have a good social life is the issue of communication. I mean, we have to communicate with one another. In الحوار أصل التعايش, they said, communication is the base for any kind of relationship that can be established. And so many times, repeatedly, you hear people complaining about, hey, there is a miscommunication. Usually you hear, I've been misunderstood. There is a lack of communication. As a matter of fact, reason number one for most of the marital problems are because of miscommunication. All the time when you counsel two people or you hear the complaining about from couples, they always say, you know what, he doesn't understand me. I'm saying this, she's saying that. And always you see there is kind of misunderstanding and there is no good communication. It's a complaint that everybody complaining. You know, you look at the youth, they said, hey, the elders, they don't understand us. They misunderstand us. We cannot communicate with them. You look at the parents, they complain about their kids. Kids cannot understand what we're telling them. They misunderstand me. You know, look at the public with basically with the leaders and communities. There's always complaint about the old, the young, the Muslim, the non-Muslims, you know, the scholars, the imams, and the general public. They're all complaining about, hey, I misunderstand. Either he said, I've been misunderstood, or we don't know how to communicate properly. I believe misunderstanding people is something acceptable, something natural, something normal. It is right that maybe sometimes I cannot understand what you said, or I misunderstand what you said. That's fine. سوء الفهم شيء طبيعي. That's normal. But what is not right, when misunderstanding transferred to be a tool of transgression, that I build judgment and I take position based on my misunderstanding, based on the wrong understanding that I have about you or about this issue. And because of it is something could happen, people misunderstand each other. كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لربما كرر كلامه ثلاثة. Sometimes the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم will repeat the same statement 3 times, just to make sure that people will not misunderstand what he said صلى الله عليه وسلم. He used to make his speech short. كان يقصر الخطبة صلى الله عليه وسلم. He will not make it too long so people will forget or misunderstand. Why? Because whenever you talk, we have to realize a fact that you're a human being, I am a human being. I make mistakes and you make mistakes as well. We make mistakes as well. That's the Prophet ﷺ, even though he was the most eloquent person in Arabic. مع أنه أفصح الناس وأبين الناس صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. And his language was simple, clear. But still, you will see people misunderstood what the Prophet ﷺ said, or sometimes even what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. And there are so many examples like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, in the night you can eat as long as you can distinguish between the white robe and black robe. So one companion, he brought literally a black robe and a white robe, and he put them next to each other. And as long as he doesn't see the difference in color and there is no light, he will continue eat. That means he will eat until the sun rises, until the sun comes out, not to Fajr. And he thought that's what this verse means. During Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu arda time, there is a group of companions read the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mentioned وَلَيْسَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ جُنَاحٌ فِيمَا طَعِمُوا إِذَا مَا اتَّقَوْا وَآمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, as long as you're a believer, as long as you do good deeds, it doesn't matter what you eat. It doesn't matter what you consume. So he said, as long as you have faith and you do good deeds. So some of the companions, they're not like just a person. They are companions. They understand Arabic very well. So they thought that means I can drink anything. So they started drinking alcohol. They were brought to Umar radiallahu anhu drunk. So Umar said, how can you drink alcohol? He said, didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, it doesn't matter what you consume as long as you have iman and taqwa and faith. Well, wallahi, I have iman and faith and taqwa. They misunderstood. Then Umar radiallahu anhu excused them. And he said, if you ever come back to it again, saying that this is your understanding, I will punish you for that. Anyway, I can give you example one after another. But what is so interesting, that phenomena that I see in the community, the phenomena that I see in the people that I deal with on a daily basis, that phenomena which is a lot of time people been misunderstood, misinterpreted, and been judged by this misunderstanding and misinterpretations. And people been accused and attacked sometimes because people, they twist their words, twist their speech, twist what they say, and accuse them with things that not necessarily that they are or they ever intended it. And so many times you hear this. A father will tell me, why my son always accused me of this? Or the son said, my father, he's always against me. Or the wife and the husband, and I said. And even between the du'at, sometimes the scholars, the groups, the people who work for da'wah. And I think that's one of the biggest obstacles prevent a lot of people from being united and working together. That there's a lot of misconceptions, misunderstanding, and misinterpretation to what we say. So if I would like to analyze this phenomenon, if I would like to see what the causes behind, why do we sometimes kind of intentionally or why people, let's put it this way, misinterpret others or misunderstand others. لماذا يعني الناس تسيء الفهم, as if intentionally kind of happen or commonly happen. I think number one, سوء النية. ما يسيء الفهم أكثر من صاحب النية السيئة. There is no one will ever misunderstand you, misinterpret you, someone like the one who have bad intention. So if I come to the masjid and my intention not to learn, my intention to pick and sheikh's mistakes, you know what, I will find plenty of them. If my intention just have a bad intention whenever I talk to you, you know what, I talk to my son or my wife, my colleagues, a group of people talking to each other, and there is bad intention, no good intention, definitely it's easy to misinterpret what you say. And closer to this, number two, su'ul dhann, that you always not have bad intention, that always you think bad and ill of others. You don't give people the benefit of doubts. You know, that's why every time you don't give the other person the benefit of doubt, you're ready immediately to take everything he said, she said in the bad way. You understand it in the bad way. And this has happened a lot between children and parents and couples. I found it very common, very common. Number three, and I think this is also very close to the first 2 points. أن الإنسان يكون عنده أصلا خلفية مسبقة عن الشيء أو عن الشخص. A preconceived judgment about the person or the issue. I already set up my mind. I already know this is where I stand about this. So I already know who you are. That I already judged you before even I talk to you. So what happened, everything you say it will go through that filter. So anything goes against my prejudgment, I have to twist it to match what I already have in my mind about you. And that's very dangerous, very dangerous. Let's say you have an employee working for you. You already have this idea 100% that this person he lies, or he's lazy, or he's trying. So every action this person, every something he would say, you always interpret it this way. I had a young girl crying at my office that day, telling me, Sheikh, can you please tell my parents that wallahi I don't lie anymore. Yes, they caught me lying several times, but everything now, the misunderstanding me, and absolutely, and every time they tell me you're lying, you're doing this, you're doing that. Why? Because that's the prejudgment. Khalas. I told her, you know what, that's a joint problem, because trust, it takes years to build and moments to destroy. So you have to bear the consequences of your actions. You lied once, that's what happened. But also to the parents, I said, you cannot use that prejudgment, preconceived judgment, and to filter everything through it. It is so important. One of the reasons also that a lot of people misinterpret others, because they don't think about the situation that might those people in. Sometimes you're not a considerate person. You don't put yourself in their shoes. Maybe they had a rough day. That's why they're talking in a rough tone. Don't misunderstand this by saying, oh, he hates me. Oh, he doesn't like me. Oh, he's making fun of me. Oh, he's arrogant. Okay? You don't know what the person is thinking. You don't know. Maybe he had a rough day. Maybe he had a headache. Maybe he is sick. Maybe somebody in his family not feeling good. Maybe there is something wrong in his life. That's why he did this or he acted this way. Do you know that 12% of our populations have heart disease? Maybe he's one of that 12%. Maybe some doctors will tell me no, maybe it's higher than that. You know, there's 7.9, I think, million people diagnosed with cancer every year in this country. Maybe he just got the news. Maybe he's diabetic. Maybe he's just had a rough day. Maybe going through a problem. So that's why you have to take that in consideration. Maybe that person living in another country, especially dealing with social media, you may be this person talking from another completely perspective, another situation that you're living in. So sometimes we misunderstand that. You know, like for example, I might, oh, this person became liberal. That's why he's doing all these kind of things. No, maybe he's just saying this in regard to a specific situation or because of specific circumstances. It's very important when we read people is to think about the circumstances that they're living in. Okay? I give you another example. One brother once came and he was talking about an issue here in the masjid. And he was talking about the issue of voting. And he was talking about it is the most important thing, the most important duty for Muslim to do in America is to go vote. Very excited about it. Okay? So one brother came to me, he said, A'udhu billah, this is kufr. I said, why? He said, he made voting more important than Tawheed. Because he just said, it is the most important duty upon Muslims. He made voting more important than Salah. I said, man, that's really picking on the guy. He never meant that way. Now, while I said, you know what? This is a very interesting way of looking at it. The guy is really so excited because he'd been suffering. Maybe that's what the line of work he did. Maybe he just saw the numbers of people who show up in voting poll, and he was so disappointed that from a whole entire community, you have only a handful of people show up. And after that, this same community come and complain about their rights and blah, blah, blah. So that's all what you hear 24 hours. That's why when he talk about this subject, he's so passionate about it. So you know what? Give him an excuse. Maybe that's what, ask anyone work in civil rights cases and issues. You're so passionate about what they do. Put yourself in their shoes and you'll see that maybe the way they talk makes sense. So you will give them the benefit of doubt. Also, interesting, we have a concept in fiqh, we say, لازم القول ليس بلازم. Once I was stopped by a Canadian authority in the airport. And they talked to me, chat with me, why are you coming, blah, blah. So one of the part of the conversation we had, a very interesting point that officer mentioned. He said to me, I do have an observation about you guys who comes to give khutbahs and some of the khatibs in the Muslim community. I said, what it is? And that's a good point he raised. He said, we had here in Toronto an incident where a writer came. She wrote a book about your prophet and about the wife of the prophet, and she insulted them. She was not good to them, and something I don't agree with. But that's freedom of speech. This is we're an open country, and that's her right to write whatever she wants. Okay? He said, so one of your imams in Toronto, he said, give the khutbah about historically that there is some people accuse the Prophet's wives or something like that. So the Prophet said, who will cut this man's head off? Or will kill that man? So the whole khutbah was about all these incidents where killing the person who speaks about the honor of the Prophet. Then the second khutbah he said, and today in Toronto, so-so who speaks about the Prophet's honor are in town, and she is giving a lecture in such and such place. What that means, Sheikh? You just connect A and B. That's calling the community to go kill that person. So I told him, you know, it's very interesting how you looked at it, but I'll tell you something. We don't have in our, if you study fiqh, sharia, and even Arabic language, لازم القول ليس بلازم. What necessitates your statement is not necessarily true. Because for a simple fact, al-fuqaha said that. If I said a statement and you tell me you said that and that necessitates that, so that means you also believe in that. That's, if it's a statement by a scholar, is not acceptable. That's a wrong method. Why? Because we are human beings. Not necessarily we are aware of the consequences of our statements. That's only applied to the Sharia, to the Quran and Sunnah, because it's ma'soom, because it comes from Allah who's perfect. But for us as a muftis, for us as a speakers, we don't sometimes think this way, that sophisticated. But that's a good advice to be given. But I guarantee you, if you ask the same sheikh in Toronto, did you ever meant that way? He would say, no, at all. It never even crossed my mind. And it's just a lack of not being aware of what you say. And this is so many things like that. So many times we judge people by what their statement necessitates or can lead to. And that's not true, not true. One of the reasons that I found a lot of people misunderstand others as well, it is because when you say something general, people are so interested to make your general statement apply to a specific person. Sheikh Walid is talking about ISGH new elections. That must be the issue that he raised this. Oh, Sheikh Walid must be mentioned this because of this and this. He always tried to take your words and apply it to a specific incident or a specific person. If you think this way, you always misread people. Oh, you're talking this because about me. You meant me. That's not a right way to think. If the statement is general, keep it general. Don't be interested in تنزيل الكلام العام على معين. Don't be interested in always applying the general statement to specific cases or people. One of the reasons as well people misunderstand each other a lot when people don't have a whole understanding of the conversation. Somebody walk next door, oh, Sheikh Walid mentioned ISGH in the khutbah elections. See, he comes in the middle and just make a case out of it. That's why you misunderstand me. Is you don't know the whole entire subject. You just jump in the middle. You know what? That's one of the reasons. Sometimes misunderstanding, misprint, even misspelling can be read in some way and people start attacking you left and right, especially talking about social media today. You know, it just, the autocorrection did the whole entire mistake. It's not even me. So that's another reason. And this is not new. تقول العرب أقول زيدا ويسمعها عمرا ويكتبها عمر. I said Zayd, he heard it Amr, and he wrote it Umar. يعني 3 different words. Sometimes as well, we misunderstand each other because we have a different cultures, different way of talking, you know. And this is another reason. Maybe in some culture, I will tell you a thing. When I went to England, okay, you know, as a sheikh, I'm expecting a certain level of respect in dealing with me. So all of a sudden, somebody was treating me, one of these young guys who were driving me around, and he kept saying to me, oh, don't be silly. And for me, don't be silly. That's silly. Okay? You don't speak to me like that when it was first time to me. And all of a sudden, I found that this is in their culture. That's the way they talk. You know, they don't mean any disrespect. It's just a different culture, how people talk. You know, somebody was so offended by an American guy who was talking to him. Why? Because he had his legs crossed. In Arab culture, this is very disrespectful. نزل رجلك يا ولد. You know, if you speak to your father or older person putting your legs above each other, or you speak to your husband and you have that, that will be the biggest offense. Here it's not. It's just a different culture. So sometimes we misread each other, we misinterpret each other because we lack of understanding the different cultures. And that's happened a lot with your young kids, by the way. You think because your kids talk to you this way, it means he means disrespect. No, it's just a different culture. Even your own kids can pick and adopt a new culture, Sometimes we misunderstand each other because we're kind of vague in the way we talk. Shadow. We're not clear. And that's why, or bring a lot of strange things. That's why those kind of people can be easily misunderstood. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يرزقنا وإياكم الفهم والفقه. أقول ما سمعتم وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد. As you say, there are so many reasons for people to misunderstand each other. There's so many reasons, so many causes for this problem. If there is any solutions I can give, I would say, one, start with yourself. Always be clear. Always be, as much as you can, make your statements clear, can be easily misunderstood. Number two, always have good faith in others. Give them the benefit of doubt. Don't think ill of other people. Always give them the benefit of doubt. Number three, be honest. Whenever you quote someone. Don't make it your own statements. That will help a lot for people to deal with you in a more clear way as well. I will also advise, whenever you deal with people and you can read them wrong, احمل دائما المتشابه على المحكم. If you see me said something or did something and it doesn't look right, doesn't sound right, don't judge me by that particular statement. Look at me, how I've been dealing with you all these years. Look at how you know about me. You know, don't judge me because, let's say, one day passed by you, I didn't give you salam. Because, you know what, my son has cancer or whatever the case is. Maybe I had a rough day that day. You know, don't say, oh, he's arrogant. He's one of these sheikh who don't even look at people and respect people. No, that's not how we've been dealing with each other all these years. You know me, I know you for so many years. So make sure that you always, when you come to judge people, look at their common practice. Don't judge them by one incident. Also, ask. If somebody said something it doesn't sound right, ask them. You misunderstand it or you feel that this doesn't, ask the person. One of the biggest mistakes I found, especially in relationships, a lot of time we expect people to understand us. I don't need to tell you. I'll tell you, I am guilty of that. I used to be guilty of that. And it's kind of embarrassing story, but I don't mind to share it. You know, one of my daughters, Layla, I was like one day, you know, trying to teach her a lesson. You know, I remember my dad, rahimahullah, he always tell us this. He said about his mom, my grandmother, he said, Ummi, bas abuya yundur ilayha. He said, my father saying his mother, when his father look at her, she figure him out. And she will immediately do it. So I've been hearing this all my childhood, and I'm expecting the same. I'm like looking at my daughter, and she said, are you okay? I just laughed when she said that. You know, I just give her a look and, are you okay? Do you have a headache? She's so not aware of what I want. And I was like, can't you figure out that I'm not happy or I want the milk? Or she's, why did you say it? Just say it, you want the milk. You don't need me to. So I was like, oh my God. It's different. So sometimes, you know what? Don't just expect people to figure you out. A lot of women especially. Sheikh, he doesn't figure me out. It's a marriage. It's not a riddle you need to solve. Tell him what you want. You know, sometimes you just need to say it obvious. Say, hey, that's what I want. Please do this. Sometimes you need to do that. In the other hand, I say try to be a little bit sensitive. I mean, and figure things out. You don't need to be. Some things are obvious. Make sure that you always your heart clean before you go to sleep. You know what? Forgive, forget, move on in your life. Try to learn about other people's cultures. And if you don't want to be misunderstood in the future, don't talk too much. Don't use vague words, ambiguous words. Make sure that you communicate in the most clear way, even if it needs to write to someone. Some social media today leads a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of misinterpretations. Because sometimes you can't do everything in just WhatsApp or a message for 140 characters. Choose the right time, because sometimes when we don't choose the right time to speak about subject can be easily misunderstood. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who have the ability to understand each other good and to have good faith in each other's and to give us the love and the harmony and to bless us and our family. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تغفر ذنوبنا وأن تستر عيوبنا وأن تصلح أخطاءنا. اللهم إنا نسألك يا حي يا قيوم أن ترزقنا الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل. أصلح نياتنا وأقوالنا وأعمالنا وقلوبنا وألسنتنا يا حي يا قيوم. أصلح ما بيننا وبينك وبين الناس يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم إنا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب العمل الذي يقربنا إليك يا حي يا قيوم. اللهم اغفر لوالدينا، اللهم اغفر لوالدينا، اللهم اغفر لوالدينا، اللهم اغفر لأزواجنا، اللهم اغفر لأولادنا وبناتنا وذرياتنا وقرابتنا وذوي أرحامنا الأحياء منهم والميتين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات يا حي يا قيوم يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم إنا نسألك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام أن تعجل بنصر المظلومين وأن ترفع الظلم عن المظلومين في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها يا حي يا قيوم. اللهم اشف عبادك اللهم اشف المرضى من عبادك يا حي يا قيوم. اللهم اشفهم شفاء لا يغادر سقما. اللهم يسر على كل عسير وفرج عن كل مكروب واقض الدين عن المدينين بفضلك ومنك وكرمك يا أرحم الراحمين. اختم بالصالحات أعمالنا، اختم بالصالحات أعمالنا، اختم بالصالحات أعمالنا وتجاوز عنا يا حي يا قيوم.